Coming up, the Black Socialist tradition, DC public pressure builds against the occupation, anti-Cuba media bias, and how you can join the socialist fight. But first, a DC landlord gets caught union busting. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MDC Dispatch. I'm your host, Tony, and I'll be here bringing you the news and events from Metro DC DSA. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and be on the lookout for a new Dispatch episode every first and third Sunday each month. A tenant organizer was arrested this week for organizing in her own building, one of the clearest violations of DC's right to organize law and an explicit retaliation from Channel Square Apartments against tenant organizers. After this resident began organizing her neighbors to fight against the unsafe conditions of their building, rodents, mold, plumbing issues, and a lack of heat in DC's coldest winter, Channel Square responded by issuing a barring notice to her which kept her from entering any of the building's common spaces. The barring notice wasn't issued by a judge, which means the landlord played judge, jury, and executioner with their resident. And when she refused to be suppressed by the barring notice and attended a tenants meeting in a building common space, Channel Square called the police on her. They charged her with unlawful entry to her own building. Tenants need to fight back. If landlords find success with this tactic, they will expand it to everyone else. Channel Square tenants are calling on DC to show up at their building at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, March 4th, to confront their landlords and show them that they will never defeat the people. MDC DSA Stomp Out Slumlords campaign are helping to arrange ride shares to the rally so tenants all over the district can attend. If you can help, fill out the form linked below and plan to be there at 6 p.m. on Wednesday to be a part of the tenants movement. RSVP at the link in the description. On the heels of MPD's intimidation and arrest of a tenant organizer, their performance oversight hearing took over the Wilson building and lasted for a staggering 10 hours with over 100 public witnesses, and Jeffrey Carroll, Proud Boys defender and current interim police chief, testifying. The Families Not Feds Coalition led a rally on the steps before the hearing even began, calling out the council's inaction and demanding an end to MPD's collaboration with ICE and other masked federal thugs terrorizing the district. As Carroll himself later confirmed multiple times when questioned by council members, the MPD can exploit a loophole in the Sanctuary Values Act by sharing immigration data with other agencies about someone who is not in MPD's custody. Despite this urgency, Councilmember Brooke Pinto, the chairperson of the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety, and DC's only private equity heiress councilmember, spent the majority of the hearing on her phone, whispering with her staffers, even drawing out her questioning of two earlier government witnesses in the clear hopes that the hordes of people eager to testify against the MPD would clear out. But the people's will was not broken, and Pinto endured over 5 hours of testimonies from organizers, educators, parents, and neighbors about the harassment, violence, and open collaboration they've witnessed from MPD officers. The only witness Pinto showed any interest or care to was Trinice Bailey, the wife of Julian Bailey, who was executed by U.S. Marshals on February 11th. She only put her phone down with a petulant pout when called out by a witness, even walking out of the room for a handful of testimonies. The bread and butter was Carroll's multi-hour testimony and questioning, or it should have been, except he spent almost all of his time relying on phrases like, "I'm not sure, and I'd have to get back to you," to carry him through. He made one thing clear, though: he doesn't see MPD's federal collaboration as dangerous, despite multiple incidents of federal agents alongside MPD shooting at and murdering DC residents, and will lie through his teeth to keep it going. For anyone wanting to push back against this narrative and work to hold MPD accountable for their violence, and Pinto for facilitating and encouraging their collaboration, written testimony can be submitted through March 11th. Submit your testimony at the link below. In January, we reported on the continuing struggle for a fair contract at Starbucks. At the time, the union Starbucks Workers United asked the public to simply boycott Starbucks, including canceling any pending mobile orders. Unfortunately, management refuses to negotiate, even though the current dispute is over less than 1/4 of 1% of company revenue. So the baristas are now asking that you delete the app from your phone entirely. If you don't know, here's how to delete an app. On iOS, tap and hold the icon, then tap Remove. On Android, tap and hold, then drag the app to the trash. For more information on the Delete the App pledge, see the link in the description. This month in the Washington Socialist, author Matthew B. reminds us of a fact the political establishment has worked hard to bury. The civil rights movement was built by socialists. In his article, The Suppressed History of the Black Socialist Tradition, Matthew traces this radical legacy from King to the Black Panthers and shows how it was deliberately erased. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote to his wife Coretta in 1952 that he was much more socialistic than capitalistic. The March on Washington was organized by two socialists, A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin. Movement leaders put forward a freedom budget for all Americans that called for full employment, decent wages, universal health care, and affordable housing. Black women like Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer were the backbone of the struggle and openly anti-capitalist. And Fred Hampton was murdered by the FBI precisely because he was building a multiracial, working-class rainbow coalition. This history didn't fade on its own. It was suppressed through co-optation, appropriation, and outright repression so that politicians across the spectrum could claim the movement's legacy while gutting its radical demands. Matthew argues that DSA must reclaim this tradition not just during Black History Month, but as a foundation for how we organize. That means building a modern rainbow coalition, pursuing a socialist freedom budget, and elevating the Black members and Black radical history that have always been central to the fight for economic justice. Read the full piece at the Washington Socialist link in the description. On February 25th, Cuban border guards intercepted a Florida-registered speedboat that had entered Cuban territorial waters. If you saw the headlines, you probably read something like, "Cuba fires on American speedboat." Florida politicians were quick to call it a massacre and demand retaliation. But that framing leaves out some crucial facts. According to Cuba's Interior Ministry, and notably Secretary of State Marco Rubio has not disputed this account, the speedboat was carrying 10 armed Cuban exiles with assault rifles, handguns, Molotov cocktails, bulletproof vests, and camouflage uniforms. When Cuban border guards approached the vessel for identification, the people on the speedboat fired first, wounding the Cuban commander. Cuba returned fire, killing 4 and wounding 6. And then, and this part matters, Cuba rescued the survivors and provided them with medical treatment. Nick Terse at The Intercept put this in sharp perspective. His headline reads not, "Cuba fires on American boat," but "Cuban border guards attacked by Florida speedboat." And he draws a devastating comparison. The U.S. military has carried out over 40 boat strikes in the Caribbean since last September, killing more than 150 people, and in multiple documented cases has left survivors to drown or conducted follow-up strikes on wreckage. Cuba evacuated and treated the wounded. Terse also reminds us that during the Cold War, the Pentagon literally drew up plans called Operation Northwoods to stage false flag attacks in Cuban waters, including sinking a boatload of Cuban refugees and blaming it on Cuba to justify an invasion. All of this is unfolding while the Trump administration's oil blockade has pushed Cuba to the brink of humanitarian collapse, with the UN warning of catastrophic shortages of food, medicine, and fuel. So when you see the headlines framing Cuba as the aggressor here, ask yourself, who is actually under siege? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. Join the chapter for any of the huge slate of events coming up in the next few weeks. RSVPs are linked in the description. DC restaurant workers will be holding an informational picket on Tuesday, the 3rd, to let DC know there is no union contract at the Duck and the Peach. The NLRB election for the Duck and the Peach has been scheduled for March 6. A virtual phone bank will be held Wednesday, the 4th, to help fundraise for Janice Lewis George and Aparna Raj. They'll be calling DSA members in DC and asking them to donate to Janice and Aparna's campaign. taking advantage of the district's potent 5-to-1 matching funds program to overcome the financial weight of the business owner and landlord class. Join the phone bank to beat capitalist trash with socialist cash. As previously mentioned, in Upfront, a tenant at Channel Square Apartments was arrested for attending a tenant union meeting in her own building. Channel Square tenants are asking you to show up, invite your neighbors, be loud, pack the lawn on Wednesday, March 4th. Do you live in Prince George's County or an ally who wants to make a difference? Join the branch of Metro DC DSA in phone banking for longtime chapter member Imara Crooms, who's running for the District 9 seat of the Prince George's County Council, also on March 4th. Metro DC DSA has endorsed two amazing Montgomery County candidates, Gabe Acefaro and Josie Caballero. Show MoCo that DSA stands with our candidates by turning up and turning out to knock on our neighbors' doors. Gabe and Josie support teachers and working families, and that's why we support them. Saturday, March 7th. MoCo DSA's ICE Watch working group will be canvassing local businesses in and around Rockville Town Center and ask if they'll allow us to hang fundraising flyers for the most at-risk families in Montgomery County, children who have lost both their parents to immigration abductions and deportations. This event is low risk and is open to DSA and non-DSA members, so please invite your friends and family who are interested in an introductory activity to begin organizing for their immigrant neighbors. Sunday, March 8th. Subscribe to the weekly update for the most up-to-date list of events every week at the link in the description. More than just DSA is hosting events in the coming weeks, so are many other groups. Here are a few other upcoming events. Are you a writer who's interested in socialism, organizing, strategizing, mobilizing, and theorizing across the DMV? Consider contributing to the Spring 2026 Washington Socialist. Send submissions and ideas to washingtonsocialist@mdcdsa.org or reach out in the publication's Slack channel for more information. Want to fight fascism? Be a part of a community and help get new and exciting stories about a better tomorrow out to more people? After the Storm magazine is looking for editors, readers, bookkeepers, web developers, grant applicators, and social media and event managers. This is a mostly virtual, no-pressure space. Members do what they can, when they can, with light, training, and complete freedom. Learn more and reach out over email at afterthestormmag@gmail.com. Bull Co-op is organizing a working-class literature festival on May 1st and 2nd and is looking for writers and volunteers. Labor literature often intersects with other movements, underscoring intersectionality. Any fiction writers, poets, or volunteers who engage with the themes of labor and work should get in touch with Bull at info@bull.coop. Find these activities and many more at the calendar of events on the website or in the full weekly update, also linked in the description. The Democratic Socialists of America is growing. If you're not a member of DSA and would like to connect with other like-minded activists, community organizers, and neighbors, visit dsausa.org and join today. Metro DC DSA is the third largest chapter in America with over 3,000 members. We are very active in the community and have groups focused on labor, tenant rights, LGBTQ rights, environmental activism, and much more. DSA is the largest socialist organization in America, and we would love to have you as a member. These and other stories, along with links and sources, can be found in the Metro DC DSA Weekly Update newsletter, which you can find linked in the description. This production has been a collaboration of members of Metro DC DSA. Look for new videos on the first and third Sunday of every month. I'm your host, Tony, signing off with a reminder, a better world is possible.